Eva Romero thought she was just babysitting a sick little boy for one night. $300 to watch over a quiet child in a mansion while his father worked late. She had no idea that the man paying her was Nico Vitale, one of the most feared mafia bosses in the city, or that stepping foot in his world would paint a target on her back forever. When threatening messages started appearing under her door and gunshots echoed through the estate's dining room, Eva realized she wasn't just a babysitter anymore. She was a witness, a liability, and the only woman who could heal the broken hearts of both a traumatized little boy and his dangerous father. But in a world where love and violence dance together like shadows, Eva would soon discover that some promises are paid for in blood and some families are worth dying for. What she couldn't have predicted was that the most dangerous man in the city would become her salvation, and that saving his son would cost her everything she thought she knew about safety, trust, and love. Subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because this story is about to prove that sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin with the most terrifying nights. The alarm clock screamed at 5:30 in the morning, just like every other day. Eva Romero slapped it silent and rolled out of bed, her feet hitting the cold hardwood floor. Her whole body ached from yesterday's double shift at the diner, but bills didn't pay themselves. "Leo, get up!" she called through the thin wall separating their tiny bedrooms. "School in an hour." A groan came from the other room. Her 10-year-old brother was not a morning person. Neither was she, for that matter, but someone had to be the adult round here. Eva splashed cold water on her face and stared at herself in the cracked bathroom mirror. Dark circles under her brown eyes told the story of too many sleepless nights worrying about money. At 28, she felt 40. But Leo needed her. He'd needed her ever since their parents died in that car crash 3 years ago. "Leo," she called again, louder this time. She heard movement and smiled despite her exhaustion. The shower was quick and cold. The hot water heater had been acting up for weeks, but the repair bill would have to wait. Everything had to wait these days. In the kitchen, she made peanut butter sandwiches for Leo's lunch and instant coffee for herself. The coffee was cheap and bitter, but it would keep her awake through her first job at the diner. Then she had her second job cleaning offices downtown. And sometimes, when Rosalia called, she had her third job babysitting. "Morning, Eva." Leo shuffled into the kitchen, his dark hair sticking up in all directions. He looked so much like their dad, it made her heart ache sometimes. "Morning, sleepyhead." She ruffled his hair and handed him a glass of milk. "Eat your cereal. We leave in 20 minutes. Leo poured cereal into his bowl and added milk. "Are you picking me up today, or am I taking the bus?" "Bus today. I have to work late." She hated saying it, hated that her little brother had to take care of himself so much. But what choice did she have? "Okay." He didn't complain. He never complained. Sometimes she wondered if that was worse than if he threw tantrums like a normal kid. Her phone rang just as she was putting on her work shoes. The caller ID said Rosalia. "Hello?" "Eva, dear, I have a favor to ask." Rosalia's voice was warm but tired. She was the housekeeper for some rich family uptown, and sometimes she threw babysitting jobs Eva's way when the family needed extra help. "I'm listening." Eva tucked the phone between her shoulder and ear while she tied her shoes. "My employer needs someone to watch his son tonight. The regular sitter got sick. It's good pay, and—" Rosalia paused. "It might run late. Very late. Maybe all night." Eva's stomach flipped. She needed the money desperately, but an all-night job meant leaving Leo alone. "How much?" $300. Eva nearly dropped the phone. $300 was more than she made in a week at the diner. "Are you serious?" "Very serious. But, Eva, this family is different. The father travels a lot for business. The house is big and quiet. The little boy is sweet but shy. His name is Luca. He's 7. Something in Rosalia's voice made Eva pause. Different how? Just private people. They value their privacy very much. You understand? Eva didn't really understand, but $300 was $300. When do you need me? Tonight at 6. I'll text you the address. And Eva, bring Leo if you need to. There's plenty of room. After she hung up, Eva stared at her phone. $300 would cover their rent for the month with some left over. Maybe she could even get the hot water heater fixed. Who was that? Leo asked, spooning up the last of his cereal. Rosalia, I have a babysitting job tonight. You'll have to come with me. Leo made a face. Do I have to? It's one night, Leo, and it's good money. She kissed the top of his head. Come on, let's go. You'll be late for school. The day dragged by in a blur of coffee orders and complaining customers. Eva's feet hurt, her back ached, and she spilled ketchup on her uniform during the lunch rush. But she kept thinking about those $300, and it made everything bearable. At 5:30, she picked up Leo from his after-school program and drove to the address Rosalia had texted. Her old Honda wheezed and rattled as they climbed the winding road into the hills outside the city. Whoa, Leo breathed as they turned into a long driveway. Eva's jaw dropped. The house at the end of the drive wasn't a house. It was a mansion. 3 stories of cream-colored stone with tall windows and perfectly manicured gardens. A fountain bubbled in the circular driveway, and security cameras watched from every corner. Are you sure this is the right place? Leo whispered. Eva double-checked the address. This is it. She parked next to the fountain and walked to the massive front door, Leo close behind her. Before she could knock, the door opened. Eva, you made it. Rosalia smiled and hugged her warmly. She was a small woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a neat bun. And this must be Leo. Come in, both of you. The inside of the house was even more impressive than the outside. The entry hall had marble floors and a crystal chandelier that probably cost more than Eva's yearly salary. Oil paintings in heavy gold frames lined the walls. This place is huge, Leo said, his voice echoing in the vast space. It is big, Rosalia agreed, sometimes too big. But young Luca loves having room to play. Come, I'll show you around. She led them through room after room, a formal dining room with a table that could seat 20 people, a library with books from floor to ceiling, a living room with furniture that looked too expensive to sit on. Everything was perfect and spotless and somehow cold despite the warm colors and soft fabrics. Where is Luca? Eva asked. Upstairs in his room. He's not feeling well today. Fever, headache. Poor little thing. Rosalia's face creased with worry. His father had to go out of town on business, emergency meeting. He won't be back until very late. They climbed a wide staircase to the second floor. The hallway stretched in both directions, lined with more paintings and expensive-looking furniture. Luca? Rosalia knocked softly on a door, decorated with a small wooden sign that read, Luca's room. I brought Eva to take care of you tonight. The door opened slowly. A small boy peeked out, and Eva's heart squeezed. He was tiny for 7, with dark hair and huge brown eyes that looked too old for his face. His skin was pale except for the fever flush on his cheeks. Hello, Luca, Eva said gently. I'm Eva. This is my brother Leo. Luca stared at them without saying a word. He stepped back into his room, leaving the door open. He's shy, Rosalia explained quietly, and he hasn't been talking much since. She trailed off, shaking her head. Since his mother passed away last year. Eva's heart broke a little more. She knew what it was like to lose a parent. Can we come in, Luca? The boy nodded and retreated to his bed. The room was like something out of a magazine. A race car bed, built-in bookshelves, a play area with enough toys for 10 kids. But it felt lonely somehow, like a beautiful cage. Leo whistled low under his breath. Cool room, dude. For the first time, Luca's mouth almost smiled. Luca's eaten dinner, but he might want something light later, Rosalia said. Soup or crackers. Nothing too heavy with his stomach upset. His medicine is on the nightstand. 1 teaspoon every 4 hours for the fever. She showed Eva where everything was. The kitchen, the medicine cabinet, the phone numbers for the doctor and the pharmacy. Emergency. Contacts. What about his father? Eva asked. How do I reach him if something happens? Rosalia's face tightened almost imperceptibly. Mr. Vitale is in meetings all evening. He's not to be disturbed unless it's a true emergency. He'll be home late, probably after midnight. Something about the way she said it made Eva uneasy, but she pushed the feeling away. Rich people had demanding jobs. That was how they stayed rich. I should go, Rosalia said, gathering her purse and jacket. There's food in the kitchen if you get hungry. Help yourselves to anything. Make yourselves at home. After Rosalia left, the house felt different, bigger, quieter. The silence seemed to press in from all sides. This place is creepy, Leo muttered, looking around Luca's room. It's not creepy, Eva said, though she kind of agreed. It's just big. Luca sat on his bed, hugging a stuffed bear and watching them with those 2 serious eyes. Eva sat down next to him. How are you feeling, sweetheart? He shrugged, but let her feel his forehead. He was definitely running a fever. Want me to read to you? She asked. He pointed to a book on his nightstand. Good night, Moon. It was a little young for a 7-year-old, but Eva didn't comment. Comfort books didn't have age limits. She read while Leo explored the room, checking out the toys and games. Luca's fever made him drowsy, and his eyes kept drifting shut, but every time Eva tried to stop reading, he'd open them again and look at her with something like panic. I'm not going anywhere, she said softly. I'll stay right here. By 8 o'clock, Leo had found a handheld video game and was sprawled on the carpet playing it. Luca had finally fallen asleep, but his breathing was shallow and quick. Eva checked his temperature again, still too high. The house creaked around them, settling into evening quiet. Outside, the sun was setting behind the trees, painting everything in shades of orange and pink. It would have been beautiful if Eva wasn't starting to feel trapped. Her phone buzzed, a text from her neighbor asking if she could walk her dog in the morning. Eva typed back that she might not be home until late, depending on when Luca's father returned. Eva? Leo had put down the game and was looking out the window. There's someone out there. Eva joined him at the window. She could see a figure moving near the edge of the property, but it was too dark to make out any details. Probably just a security guard. A place like this would have security. It's okay, she said, but her voice sounded uncertain even to her. Luca stirred in his sleep, whimpering. Eva hurried back to his side and felt his forehead again. If anything, his fever was getting higher. She found the thermometer in his bathroom. 102 degrees. That was getting into dangerous territory. Luca, honey, wake up. She shook him gently. You need to take your medicine. He opened his eyes but seemed confused, like he didn't recognize her for a moment. Then his gaze cleared and he reached for her hand. Mama, he whispered. The word hit Eva like a punch to the chest. No, sweetheart. I'm Eva, remember? Your mama. Your mama isn't here anymore. Tears filled Luca's eyes. I want Mama. Eva pulled him into her arms, her own tears threatening. I know, baby. I know you do. She gave him his medicine and tried to get him to drink some water, but he could barely keep his eyes open. His small body was burning up. Thunder rumbled outside. Leo looked up from the game, suddenly alert. Is it going to storm?" As if in answer, lightning flashed outside the window, followed by another roll of thunder. Within minutes, rain was pelting the glass. "Great," Eva muttered. She hated driving in storms, especially at night. She hoped Luca's father would be home soon so she and Leo could leave. But as the hours ticked by, there was no sign of him. 9 o'clock became 10 o'clock. 10 became 11. The storm outside grew stronger and Luca's fever climbed higher. At 11:30, Eva was seriously considering taking Luca to the emergency room. His temperature was up to 103, and he was barely responding when she tried to wake him. She called Rosalia, but the phone went straight to voicemail. She tried the number Rosalia had given her for Mr. Vitale, but that went to voicemail too. "Leo," she called, "come here for a minute." Her brother appeared in the doorway, worry creasing his young face. "Is Luca okay?" "His fever is really high. I think we need to take him to the hospital. But that lady said not to leave." "I know what she said, but I'm worried about him." Eva looked down at Luca's flushed face. He was so small, so fragile. "Help me get him dressed, okay?" They were just putting shoes on Luca's feet when the lights went out. Leo yelped. Outside, the storm raged with renewed fury, and the house was suddenly pitch black. "It's okay," Eva said, though her heart was hammering. "The power just went out. It happens in storms." She used her phone's flashlight to find candles in Luca's dresser drawer. The flickering light cast dancing shadows on the walls, making everything look strange and scary. "I don't like this," Leo whispered. Neither did Eva, but she tried to keep her voice calm. "It's fine. The power will come back on soon." That's when they heard it. A sound from somewhere in the house. Footsteps? A door closing? Eva froze, listening. The house was supposed to be empty except for them. Another sound. Definitely footsteps coming up the stairs. "Get behind me," Eva whispered to Leo, pulling him and the semi-conscious Luca toward the back of the room. Her mind raced. Was it Mr. Vitale coming home? Or was it someone else? Someone who didn't belong here? The footsteps stopped outside Luca's door. Eva held her breath, clutching both boys against her. The candle flame wavered, casting wild shadows. A soft knock. "Hello? Is someone in there?" The voice was deep, male with a slight accent Eva couldn't place. It could be Luca's father, but she had no way to be sure. "We're here," she called back, trying to keep her voice steady. "Luca and his babysitters." "Open the door." It wasn't a request. It was a command, spoken with the kind of authority that expected immediate obedience. Eva's hand shook as she unlocked the door and pulled it open. The man standing in the hallway was not what she'd expected. He was tall and lean, probably in his mid-30s, with dark hair and darker eyes. His clothes were expensive but rumpled, and there were drops of water on his jacket from the rain outside. He held a flashlight in one hand. But it wasn't his appearance that made Eva's breath catch. It was the way he looked at them, cold, calculating, like he was deciding whether they were a threat. "Who are you?" he asked, his gaze moving from Eva to Leo and finally to Luca in her arms. "I'm Eva Romero. Rosalia asked me to watch Luca tonight. This is my brother Leo." She lifted her chin, forcing herself to meet his stare. "Are you Mr. Vitale?" For a long moment he didn't answer. His eyes lingered on Luca, and something flickered across his face. Pain? Regret? It was gone too quickly for Eva to be sure. "Yes," he said finally. "I'm Nico Vitale, Luca's father." Relief flooded through Eva. "Thank God you're here. Luca's really sick. His fever is over 103, and I was about to take him to the hospital." Nico stepped into the room, and Eva noticed he moved with the fluid grace of someone who was always aware of his surroundings. He set his flashlight on the dresser and reached for his son. "Let me see him." Eva hesitated for just a moment before transferring Luca to his father's arms. The boy stirred and opened his eyes. "Papa," he whispered. "I'm here," Nico said softly, and for a moment his cold mask slipped entirely. He was just a worried father holding his sick child. He felt Luca's forehead and checked his pulse with practiced ease. "How long has he been this hot?" "Since about 9. I gave him medicine, but it doesn't seem to be working." Nico nodded and carried Luca to the bed. "There's a doctor who makes house calls. I'll have him here within the hour." "Shouldn't we take him to the emergency room?" "No." The word was sharp, final. "The doctor will come here." Something in his tone warned Eva not to argue. She watched as he took out his phone and made a quick call in what sounded like Italian. The conversation was brief and intense. When he hung up, he turned back to Eva. "Dr. Moretti will be here soon. You can go now." "Go?" Eva blinked. "But the storm. Marco will drive you home." He was already dialing another number. "Wait." Eva stepped forward. "I can't leave him like this. I promised him I'd stay." Nico looked up from his phone, surprise flickering in his dark eyes. "You promised him?" "When he was scared earlier, I told him I wouldn't leave." Eva's voice grew stronger. "I keep my promises." For a moment, Nico just stared at her, like he was trying to figure out what kind of person she was, like he'd never met anyone who would choose to stay with a sick child instead of taking the money and running. "The doctor will be here soon," he said again, but less firmly this time. "Then I'll wait until he says Luca is okay. And if that takes all night," Eva lifted her chin, "then I'll stay all night." Something changed in Nico's expression. The coldness remained, but there was something else now. Curiosity, maybe, or respect. "Fine," he said finally. "But you and your brother stay in this room. Don't wander around the house." It was another command, spoken in that same tone that brooked no argument. But Eva was tired, worried, and more than a little scared by the events of the evening. "This is your house," she said, "but I'm not your employee. I'm here because I care about Luca. So please don't talk to me like I'm someone you can order around." Silence fell between them, broken only by the storm raging outside and Luca's labored breathing. Leo pressed closer to Eva's side. Nico's eyes narrowed. For a moment, Eva thought he might throw them out into the storm after all. Then, incredibly, one corner of his mouth almost smiled. "You have backbone," he said. "I respect that." He made another phone call, this time to someone named Marco. Eva caught fragments of the conversation. Something about securing the perimeter and watching the roads. It didn't sound like normal rich person business. When he hung up, he sat down in the chair beside Luca's bed. The boy had drifted back into restless sleep, his small face flushed with fever. "Tell me what happened tonight," Nico said. "Everything. From the time Rosalia left until now." Eva recounted the evening, from Luca's worsening fever to the power outage to hearing footsteps in the house. Nico listened without interruption, his face revealing nothing. "The person you saw outside," he said when she finished. "Can you describe them?" "It was too dark. I just saw movement near the trees." Nico nodded, but Eva could see tension in his shoulders that hadn't been there before. "Mr. Vitale," she said carefully, "is there something I should know? Some reason to be worried?" He looked at her for a long moment. "There are always reasons to be worried in my line of work, but tonight you and your brother are safe. I give you my word." It wasn't really an answer, but something in his voice made Eva believe him. Whatever else Nico Vitale might be, he was a man who protected what was his. The doctor arrived 20 minutes later, a small Italian man with a kind face and a heavy black bag. He examined Luca thoroughly while Nico watched from the corner and Eva held Leo's hand. Influenza, Dr. Moretti announced finally. Bad case, but nothing dangerous. The fever should break by tomorrow. Keep him hydrated, continue the medication every 4 hours, and call me if he gets worse. Relief flooded through Eva. She hadn't realized how tense she'd been until her shoulders relaxed. "Thank you, doctor," Nico said, walking the man to the door. When he returned, Luca was awake again, looking around the room with clearer eyes. "Papa?" he said when he saw his father. "I'm here, little man." Nico sat on the edge of the bed and smoothed Luca's hair. "You're going to be fine." For the first time since Eva had met him, Luca smiled. A small, tired smile, but a real one. Eva stayed, he whispered. Nico looked over at her, something unreadable in his expression. Yes, she did. The power came back on a few minutes later, flooding the room with warm light. The sudden brightness made everyone blink. "It's late," Nico said, standing up. "You should both get some sleep." "I can sleep in the chair," Eva said, "in case Luca needs anything during the night." "That's not necessary. I'll watch him." "With respect, Mr. Vitale, when was the last time you took care of a sick child? Do you know when to worry and when not to worry? Do you know how to get medicine into a kid who doesn't want to take it?" Nico's jaw tightened. "He's my son. And I'm sure you love him very much. But love doesn't automatically make you a nurse." Eva softened her voice. "I'm not trying to insult you. I'm just saying I have experience with this. Let me help." Another long moment of silence. Then Nico nodded, just once. "There's a guest room across the hall," he said. "Your brother can sleep there. You can stay here if you insist." "Thank you." As if summoned by their conversation, Luca's eyes opened again. He looked around the room until he found Eva. "Don't go," he whispered. "Please don't go." Eva's heart clenched. She went to his bedside and took his small hand in hers. "I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart. I promise." Luca smiled and closed his eyes, finally peaceful. When Eva looked up, she found Nico watching her with an expression she couldn't read. But for just a moment, the coldness was gone from his face entirely. "Thank you," he said quietly. It was the first truly warm thing he'd said all night. Eva woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the sound of gentle breathing beside her. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came flooding back. The storm, Luca's fever, his father's dark eyes watching her from across the room. She'd fallen asleep in the chair next to Luca's bed sometime around 3 a.m. Now she was lying on top of the covers, still in yesterday's clothes with a soft blanket draped over her. Someone had put it there while she slept. Luca was curled up in his race car bed, his breathing slow and even. Eva reached over and felt his forehead. Cool. The fever had finally broken. "You're awake." Eva jumped and turned toward the voice. Nico stood in the doorway, holding a steaming mug, dressed in a fresh white shirt and dark pants. He looked like he'd slept better than she had, though there were still shadows under his eyes. "How long have you been standing there?" she whispered, not wanting to wake Luca. "A few minutes." He stepped into the room and held out the mug. "Coffee. You look like you need it." The coffee was perfect, strong and hot with just enough cream. Eva wrapped her hands around the warm mug and inhaled the rich smell. "Thank you. This is exactly what I needed." "Luca's fever?" "Broke sometime during the night. He should be much better today." Something that might have been relief crossed Nico's face. "Good. Dr. Moretti was right then." "He usually is with kids. How long have you known him?" "A long time." Nico's expression shuddered again, becoming unreadable. "Your brother is still asleep. Rosalia is making breakfast if you're hungry." "Rosalia's here already?" "She lives here during the week, has her own room downstairs." Eva absorbed this information. She'd assumed Rosalia just worked here during the day, but apparently the household staff lived on the property. It made the mansion feel less empty, somehow. I should probably wake Leo soon. We need to get home so he can get ready for school. It's Saturday, Nico said. Eva blinked. Saturday, but yesterday was... She counted backward in her head. Oh, you're right. I lost track. It happens when you're taking care of sick children. Time becomes meaningless. There was something in his voice that made Eva look at him more carefully, like he was speaking from experience. Have you done this before? Stayed up all night with Luca when he was sick? Nico's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. His mother used to handle that. Used to, past tense. Eva remembered what Rosalia had said about Luca losing his mother. I'm sorry for your loss. It was over a year ago. The words were meant to sound final, like the conversation was over. But Eva heard something else in them. Pain that was still fresh. Grief that hadn't healed. Grief doesn't have a timeline, she said softly. I lost my parents 3 years ago, and some days it still feels like yesterday. Nico stared at her for a long moment. You're young to be raising a child alone. Leo's my brother, not my child. But yes, some days I feel like I'm drowning. Eva took another sip of coffee, surprised at how easy it was to talk to him. Last night he'd seemed cold and intimidating. This morning he just seemed tired. But you figure it out as you go. You do what you have to do. And what if what you have to do isn't enough? The question was quiet, almost vulnerable. Eva had the feeling he wasn't really asking about her anymore. Then you ask for help, she said. There's no shame in admitting you can't do everything alone. Before Nico could respond, Lucas stirred in his bed. His eyes opened slowly, blinking in the morning light. Papa, he said, his voice still hoarse but stronger than it had been the night before. Right here, little man. Nico was at his son's bedside in 2 quick steps. How are you feeling? Lucas sat up slowly, looking around the room until he found Eva. You stayed? I promised I would. For the first time since Eva had met him, Lucas' face lit up with a real smile. Not just the small, tired smile from last night, but a full 7-year-old grin that transformed his whole face. Thank you, he said. Eva felt something warm and fierce bloom in her chest. You're very welcome, sweetheart. Are you hungry? Nico asked his son. Rosalia is making pancakes. Luca nodded eagerly and scrambled out of bed. His color was much better, and he moved with the bouncy energy of a kid who'd been sick but was feeling better. Can Eva and Leo have breakfast too? He asked. Of course, Nico said, but he was looking at Eva when he said it, if they'd like to stay. I should check on Leo first, Eva said. Make sure he's awake. She found her brother in the guest room across the hall, sprawled across a bed that was bigger than both of their beds at home put together. The room was decorated in soft blues and greens with thick carpets and heavy curtains that had blocked out all the light. Leo, she said, shaking his shoulder gently. Time to get up. He opened one eye and squinted at her. What time is it? Almost 9. We're having breakfast here, then we'll head home. Leo sat up and looked around the room like he was seeing it for the first time. This place is crazy fancy. Did you see the TV in here? It's huge. Come on, get dressed. Luca's feeling better and everyone's waiting for us downstairs. The kitchen was as impressive as the rest of the house. All granite counters and stainless steel appliances that probably cost more than Eva's car. But Rosalia's presence made it feel warm and welcoming. She bustled around making pancakes and bacon, humming under her breath. There you are, she said when she saw Eva and Leo. How is our patient this morning? Much better, Eva said. "The fever broke during the night." "Thank goodness! I was so worried." Rosalia flipped a pancake with expert skill. "Sit, sit. Breakfast is almost ready." The kitchen table was smaller than the formal dining room table, but it could still seat 8 people easily. Luca was already there, still in his pajamas, but looking much more like a normal 7-year-old. Nico sat across from him, reading something on his phone. "These pancakes smell amazing," Leo said, sliding into a chair next to Luca. "Rosalia makes the best pancakes in the world," Luca said seriously, "even better than restaurants." "Flatterer," Rosalia said, but she looked pleased. Eva sat down and watched as Rosalia served plate after plate of perfect golden pancakes. There was bacon, fresh fruit, orange juice that actually tasted like oranges instead of sugar water. It was the kind of breakfast Eva could never afford to make. "So, Leo," Nico said, setting down his phone, "what grade are you in?" "5th," Leo said, around a mouthful of pancakes. "These are really good." "Do you like school?" Leo shrugged. "It's okay. Math is boring, but I like reading." "What do you like to read?" "Adventure books mostly. Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, stuff like that." Leo paused, studying Nico's face. "What do you do for work?" Eva nearly choked on her orange juice. "Leo, that's a personal question." "It's fine," Nico said, though Eva noticed he hesitated before answering. "I'm in business. Import and export." "What kind of stuff do you import and export?" "Various things. Nothing very interesting to 10-year-olds, I'm sure." Leo seemed satisfied with this non-answer and went back to his pancakes. But Eva filed the information away. Something about Nico's manner when he'd answered made her think there was more to his business than he was letting on. "Can I show Leo my room after breakfast?" Luca asked. "He didn't get to see all my toys last night." "If Leo wants to see it," Nico said. "Sure," Leo said. "Your room is cool." Eva smiled, watching the 2 boys chat. Leo was usually shy around adults, but Luca's enthusiasm was drawing him out of his shell, and Luca looked happier than he had since Eva met him. "They get along well," Rosalia observed, refilling Ava's coffee cup. "Leo's good with younger kids. He's had to grow up fast." Eva realized how that sounded and glanced at Nico. "Not that there's anything wrong with Luca. He seems very mature for 7. "He is," Nico said quietly. "Too mature sometimes." There was sadness in his voice that made Ava's chest tighten. She wanted to ask more, but something held her back. Some instinct that told her to go slowly, to earn his trust before pushing for answers. After breakfast, the boys ran upstairs to play while Eva helped Rosalia clear the dishes. She tried to refuse. She was a guest after all, but Rosalia waved away her protests. Nonsense. Many hands make light work. They worked in comfortable silence for a few minutes, loading the dishwasher and wiping down counters. Eva found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't in months. When was the last time someone had made her breakfast? When was the last time she'd been taken care of instead of doing all the taking care of herself? "You were good with Luca last night," Rosalia said finally. "He's a sweet kid. I could tell he was scared." "He's been scared for a long time. Ever since—" Rosalia trailed off, glancing toward the doorway where Nico had disappeared. "Since his mother died? It changed everything. Luca used to be such a happy, chatty little boy. Now he barely speaks unless someone speaks to him first." Eva thought about the way Luca had smiled at breakfast, the way he'd asked if Leo could see his room. "He seemed pretty talkative this morning." "Yes," Rosalia said, and there was something like wonder in her voice. "I noticed that too." "What was she like?" "Luca's mother?" Rosalia's face grew soft. "Beautiful, kind. She loved that boy more than life itself. And she loved Nico, even though his work, Again she stopped herself. Even though his work what? Is dangerous, Rosalia said finally. This is not a normal family, Eva. There are things about Nico's business that you wouldn't understand. Things that require precautions. Eva thought about the security cameras, the way Nico had talked about securing the perimeter on the phone last night. What kind of precautions? Before Rosalia could answer, Nico appeared in the doorway. Eva, could I speak with you for a moment? His tone was formal again, the warmth from breakfast gone. Eva followed him out of the kitchen and down a hallway she hadn't seen before. He led her to what looked like an office. Dark wood paneling, built-in bookshelves, a massive desk with multiple computer monitors. Please sit, he said, gesturing to a leather chair in front of the desk. Eva sat, suddenly nervous. The morning had been so normal, so pleasant. But now Nico looked like the cold, intimidating man from last night again. I want to thank you, he said, settling behind his desk. For staying with Luca, for taking such good care of him. It means more than you know. You don't have to thank me. I was happy to help. Nevertheless, he reached into his desk drawer and pulled out an envelope. Your fee plus a bonus. Eva stared at the envelope. Mr. Vitale, you don't need to pay me extra. We agreed on $300. Consider it a tip for exceptional service. Something in his tone bothered her, like he was trying to wrap up a business transaction, put some distance between what had happened last night and what was happening now. How much is in there? She asked. $5,000. Eva's mouth dropped open. 5,000? That's way too much. It's what I think your help was worth. But it's not about the money. Eva pushed the envelope back across the desk toward him. I didn't stay because you were paying me. I stayed because Luca needed someone. Nico stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. You're refusing payment? I'm refusing excessive payment. $300 is fair. 5,000 feels like you're trying to, I don't know, buy something from me. Buy what? Eva struggled to put her feelings into words. Your son opened up to me last night. He talked to me, trusted me. And this morning he was happier than Rosalia says she's seen him in months. That's not something you can put a price on. Everything has a price. The words were hard, cynical, but Eva heard something underneath them. Pain, maybe, or exhaustion. Not everything, she said softly. Some things you can't buy. Kindness, trust, love. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? I've been poor my whole life, Mr. Vitale. I know exactly what money can and can't do. It can buy food and shelter and medicine, but it can't buy the feeling on Luca's face when he realized I'd kept my promise to stay. Nico was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming against the desk. You're naive. Maybe, but I'm not wrong. Take the money, Eva. You need it, and I can afford it. It was true. She did need it. $5,000 would change her life, pay off debts, give her breathing room she hadn't had in years. But accepting it would change something between them. It would make last night a transaction instead of... What? She wasn't even sure. I'll take the $300 we agreed on, she said finally, but not the rest. Why? Because when Luca thinks about last night, I want him to remember that someone stayed because they cared about him, not because they were paid to care. Nico stared at her for a long moment. Then, without breaking eye contact, he opened the envelope and counted out $300. He slid the bills across the desk to her. You're either very noble or very foolish, he said, probably a little of both. For just a moment, the corner of his mouth almost smiled. Almost. A crash from upstairs broke the moment, followed by Leo's voice calling, Sorry, we didn't break anything. boys," Eva said with a shake of her head. "They're having fun. Luca doesn't have many chances to play with other children." "Why not? Doesn't he go to school?" "He's homeschooled. Has a tutor who comes 3 times a week." Eva frowned. "That seems lonely for a 7-year-old." "It's safer." There was that word again. Safer. Eva was starting to hate it. "Safer from what?" Nico's expression shuddered completely. "From the kind of people who might try to hurt him to get to me." The words hit Eva like a bucket of cold water. Hurt him? Who would hurt a child? People who have no conscience. People who see weakness as something to exploit. Nico's voice was flat, matter-of-fact. "My enemies know that the best way to destroy me is to take away what I love most." Eva felt sick. "What kind of business are you in exactly?" "The kind where I have to be very careful about who I trust." It wasn't an answer, but it was enough of an answer. Eva thought about the security cameras, the way Nico had moved last night like he was used to danger, the phone calls about securing the perimeter. Is this why Luca doesn't talk much? Because he's scared? Pain flickered across Nico's face. He's scared of many things, but mostly he's grieving. How did she die? Your wife? The question hung in the air between them. For a moment, Eva thought he might answer. Then his face went completely blank. "Car accident," he said. "Very tragic." He was lying. Eva didn't know how she knew, but she was certain of it. Something in his tone, the way his eyes didn't quite meet hers. "Mr. Vitale, I think it's time for you and Leo to go home," he said, standing up abruptly. "Marco will drive you." Eva stared at him. "Just like that, because I asked the wrong question." "Because my son is feeling better, and you have your own life to get back to." It was a dismissal, clear and final. But Eva wasn't ready to be dismissed. Not when Luca was finally starting to open up. Not when she could see how much the little boy needed stability and affection. What if I wanted to see Luca? Again? Take him to the park or something? That's not possible. Why not? He obviously enjoyed having Leo here. Maybe they could be friends. Luca doesn't have friends. The words were brutal in their simplicity. Eva stood up, anger flaring in her chest. That's no way for a child to live, isolated and scared, with no one his own age to talk to. It's the way he has to live. According to who? You? According to reality. Nico's voice was getting harder. You don't understand my world, Eva. You don't understand the choices I have to make to keep my son safe. Then help me understand. Instead of shutting me out, talk to me. Why? So you can judge me? So you can tell me I'm doing everything wrong? So I can help. The words hung between them, unexpected and raw. Eva hadn't planned to say them, but now that they were out, she realized she meant them completely. I can't protect you, Nico said quietly. I didn't ask you to. If you get involved with my family, with me, you will need protection. And your brother is my responsibility, just like Luca is yours. They stared at each other across the desk. Eva could hear her heart pounding, could see the conflict playing out on Nico's face. He wanted to say yes, she could see it in his eyes, but something was holding him back. I should go get Leo, Eva said finally. Nico nodded but didn't move to escort her out. Eva made it to the door before his voice stopped her. Eva, she turned back. Thank you for last night, for this morning, for caring about my son. You don't have to thank me for that. Yes, I do, because not many people would have stayed. There was something in his voice that made Eva's chest ache, like he was used to people leaving, like he expected it. Maybe you've been trusting the wrong people, she said softly. Then she left him alone in his office and went to collect her brother. Leo and Luca were in the middle of building an elaborate fort out of pillows and blankets when Eva found them. "Do we have to go?" Leo asked when she told him it was time to leave. "Yeah, we need to get home. You have homework to finish, and I have laundry to do." "Can we come back sometime?" Luca asked, his voice small and hopeful. Eva's heart clenched. "I hope so, sweetheart." But as she said it, she wondered if it was true. Nico had made it pretty clear that last night was a one-time thing, that his world and hers were too different, too dangerous to overlap. Marco turned out to be a large man in an expensive suit who spoke very little and drove very carefully. He helped them into a black SUV with tinted windows and delivered them home without saying more than 10 words. "That was weird," Leo said as they watched the SUV disappear down their street. "Yeah," Eva agreed. "It was." But as they climbed the steps to their small apartment, Eva found herself already missing the warmth of Rosalia's kitchen and the sound of Luca's laughter. And despite everything, the mysteries, the danger, the walls Nico kept throwing up between them, she found herself hoping her phone would ring, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they would need her again. 3 days passed without a word from the Vitale house. Eva tried to put the strange night behind her, but it wasn't easy. Every time she poured cereal instead of making pancakes, every time Leo complained about being bored, every time she struggled to pay attention at work, she found herself thinking about Luca's shy smile and Nico's guarded eyes. On Tuesday evening, while Eva was helping Leo with his math homework at their tiny kitchen table, her phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and her heart skipped. "Rosalia?" "Eva, dear, I'm so sorry to bother you." The older woman's voice was strained, worried. "But I need your help again." "What's wrong? Is Luca sick?" No, he's fine, but..." Rosalia paused. "There's been a situation. Someone left a threatening message. Nico wants everyone in the house watched at all times, and the regular sitter canceled again. She says the job makes her nervous." Eva's stomach dropped. "A threatening message?" "I can't talk about it over the phone. But Eva, Luca has been asking for you. He keeps asking when you're coming back. I think he feels safe with you." Eva looked across the table at Leo, who was frowning over a word problem. "I don't know, Rosalia. If there's danger..." "Nico said to tell you that you and Leo would be safer here than at your apartment. The house has security. Protection." "Why would we need protection?" "Because..." Another pause. "Because someone might try to use you to get to Luca, since you were seen here the other night." The words hit Eva like ice water. "Someone knows I was there? Please, Eva, just come for tonight. Nico will explain everything when you get here. I'll pay double what we paid before." Eva closed her eyes. Every rational part of her brain was screaming to say no, but she kept seeing Luca's face, hearing his whispered, "Don't go," from that first night. "We'll be there in an hour," she said. Leo looked up from his homework when she hung up. "Where are we going?" "Back to Luca's house, just for tonight." "Cool." Leo grinned. "Maybe I can see the rest of his video games." "Leo." Eva sat down across from him. "I need you to understand something. This might not be just a normal babysitting job. There might be some complications." "What kind of complications?" "How did you explain to a 10-year-old that they might be in danger because of something they had nothing to do with?" "The kind where we need to be very careful and do exactly what the adults tell us to do. Okay?" Leo's smile faded. "Are we in trouble?" "No, baby, we're not in trouble. But we need to be smart." The drive to the Vitale house felt different this time. Eva kept checking her rearview mirror, jumping at every car that stayed behind them for more than a few blocks. By the time they pulled into the circular driveway, her hands were shaking. Marco met them at the door before they could knock. Up close, he was even more intimidating than Eva remembered. Tall and broad-shouldered, with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. "Ms. Romero," he said with a slight accent. Italian, like Nico's. "Please come in. Mr. Vitale is waiting for you." He led them through the house to Nico's office. The door was closed, but Eva could hear voices inside, Nico's and at least two others, speaking rapidly in Italian. Marco knocked once. "Come in." The room fell silent when they entered. Nico stood behind his desk, still wearing the same kind of expensive suit, but looking rumpled and tired. Two other men sat in chairs across from him, both in their 30s, both wearing the same kind of watchful expression as Marco. "Eva," Nico said, relief evident in his voice. "Thank you for coming." "Where's Luca?" "Upstairs with Rosalia. He's safe." "But we might not be?" Nico's jaw tightened. "Please, sit down, both of you." Eva remained standing, keeping Leo close to her side. "I think I'd rather have answers first. Rosalia said someone left a threatening message. What kind of message?" The two men exchanged glances. Nico said something sharp in Italian, and they both stood up. "We'll be outside," one of them said in accented English. After they left, Nico came around the desk to face Eva directly. "Someone slipped an envelope under your apartment door yesterday. Your neighbor found it and called the police when she saw your name on it." Eva's blood went cold. "What did it say?" "That you should have stayed away from my family, that you've seen too much, that if you're smart you'll disappear before something happens to you and your brother." Leo pressed closer to Eva's side. "Someone threatened us?" "I'm afraid so," Nico said gently. "But that's why you're here, so we can keep you safe while we figure out who sent it." "Who would want to threaten us? We don't even know anything." "You know me. You've been in my house. To my enemies, that's enough." Eva sank into one of the chairs, pulling Leo down beside her. "Your enemies? What kind of business are you really in, Nico?" He was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. "The kind that makes me a lot of money, and a lot of enemies. The kind where people solve problems with violence instead of lawyers." It wasn't a complete answer, but Eva understood what he wasn't saying. "You're in the Mafia. I prefer family business." "Oh my God." Eva put her head in her hands. "Oh my God, Leo, what have I gotten us into?" "Hey." Nico's voice was surprisingly gentle. "Look at me." Eva raised her head. "I know this is scary. I know it's not what you signed up for, but I give you my word, my personal promise that nothing will happen to you or your brother while you're under my protection." "And what happens when we're not under your protection anymore? Do we just live in fear forever?" "I'm working on that. These threats, they're coming from someone who wants to hurt my family. Once I find out who, I can deal with them." "Deal with them how?" Nico's expression hardened. "However I have to." The implication hung heavy in the air. Eva looked down at Leo, who was listening to every word with wide, frightened eyes. "I need to think," she said. "I need to talk to Leo alone for a minute." "Of course. Use the library. It's private." The library was down the hall from the office. Floor-to-ceiling books, comfortable chairs, a window that looked out over the gardens. Eva closed the door behind them and sat down across from Leo. "I'm scared," he said quietly. "I know, baby. I'm scared too." "Are we going to be okay?" Eva wished she could promise him that they would be, but she'd learned a long time ago not to make promises she might not be able to keep. "I think so. Nico seems like someone who keeps his word, and Rosalia says this house has good security." "But what if the bad guys come here?" "Then the good guys will protect us." Leo was quiet for a moment. "Is Nico a good guy or a bad guy?" It was the question Eva had been asking herself. I think he's complicated. I think he does bad things sometimes, but for good reasons. Like protecting Luca. Like protecting us? Yeah, like protecting us. Then I guess we should stay. Eva stared at her little brother. When had he gotten so wise? Are you sure? We could try to leave town instead. Go stay with Aunt Maria in Phoenix. Leo shook his head. Luca needs us. And besides, if these people really want to hurt us, they'd probably find us in Phoenix, too. He was right. As much as Eva hated to admit it, running probably wouldn't solve anything. At least here they had protection. Okay, she said. We'll stay. But Leo, you have to promise me something. You have to do exactly what I tell you to do, when I tell you to do it. No arguing, no questions. Can you do that? I promise. They found Luca in his room, building with Legos while Rosalia sat nearby mending clothes. His face lit up when he saw them. You came back. Hey, buddy. Eva sat down on the floor next to him. What are you building? A castle. Want to help? For the next hour, they built Lego castles and tried to pretend everything was normal. But Eva could see the tension in Rosalia's face, could hear voices and footsteps in the hallway outside. The house felt different than it had before, like a fortress preparing for battle. Around 9 o'clock, Nico appeared in the doorway. Boys, time for bed, he said. But we're not done with the castle, Luca protested. You can finish it tomorrow. Tonight I need everyone to get plenty of rest. There was something in his tone that brooked no argument. Even Luca seemed to sense it. Will Eva be here tomorrow? He asked. She'll be here as long as she wants to be, Nico said, looking at Eva. This is her home now, if she chooses. After the boys were settled, Leo in the guest room, Luca in his own bed, Eva found herself alone with Nico in the kitchen. Rosalia had gone to her room, and the house was quiet except for the distant sound of guards making their rounds. Coffee? Nico asked. Please. He made it the same way he had that first morning, strong, with just the right amount of cream. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the silence stretching between them. Tell me about your enemies, Eva said finally. Which ones? The ones who want to hurt us. Nico sighed and ran a hand through his dark hair. There's a man named Viktor Ivanov, Russian. He's been trying to muscle in on my territory for the past year. Territory? Business interests, shipping routes, certain neighborhoods where people pay for protection. Eva absorbed this. Protection from what? From other people like Victor. It's an old system, but it works. So you're like a crime boss? I'm a businessman who operates in gray areas. That's a pretty way of saying yes. Nico's mouth almost smiled. You don't pull punches, do you? I can't afford to, not when Leo's safety is involved. Eva leaned forward. What does Victor want? Why is he threatening us? Because he knows that threatening my family is the fastest way to get my attention. He's tried going after my business interests directly, but I'm too well protected. So now he's trying a different approach. Using us as leverage. Exactly. Eva was quiet for a moment, processing. How do you know all this? About the note? About Victor? Because I have people who keep track of these things, and because Victor isn't particularly subtle. People like Marco? Marco and others, yes. How many others? Nico hesitated. Enough to keep us safe. It wasn't really an answer, but Eva let it go. What happens next? Next, we wait. Victor will make his move eventually, and when he does, we'll be ready. And in the meantime, we're prisoners here. Your guests here, protected guests. Guests who can't leave. Guests who shouldn't leave. There's a difference. Eva stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see a figure moving through the gardens. One of Nico's guards, probably, making sure no one was lurking in the shadows. "This isn't the life I wanted for Leo," she said quietly. "It's not the life I wanted for Luca either." Eva turned around. "But you chose this life. Did I? Or did it choose me?" There was pain in his voice, old and deep. Eva found herself moving back to the table, sitting down across from him again. "Tell me," she said. "Tell you what? How you ended up here, in this world." Nico was quiet for so long that Eva thought he wasn't going to answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was distant, like he was remembering something from long ago. "I was born into it. My father, his father before him. It's a family business that goes back generations. When I was young, I thought about leaving. Going to college, maybe. Becoming a doctor or a lawyer." "What stopped you?" "My father was killed when I was 18. Shot outside his favorite restaurant by a rival family. Someone had to step up, take over, protect what was ours. Someone had to, or you chose to." Nico's eyes met hers. Both. The family needed a leader, and I was the oldest son, but I also wanted revenge on the people who killed my father. "Did you get it?" "Eventually." The single word carried a weight that made Eva shiver. "Do you ever regret it? The choice you made?" "Every day, but especially after Maria died." Maria. His wife's name was Maria. What happened to her? Really? Nico was quiet again, his hands wrapped around his coffee cup. Eva could see the war playing out on his face, the instinct to shut down warring with something that looked like need. She was coming home from her sister's house. Late at night, dark road. A car ran her off the highway. His voice was flat, emotionless. "The police called it an accident, bad weather, slippery roads. But you don't think it was an accident." "I know it wasn't an accident. I just can't prove it." "Victor?" "No, Victor's new to the scene. This was someone else. Someone who wanted to send me a message about what happens when you cross certain lines." Eva's heart clenched. "What kind of lines?" "The kind that separate business from family. I was trying to legitimize some of my operations, make things cleaner, safer for Luca. Some people didn't like that." "So they killed your wife?" "So they killed my wife." The words were quiet, broken. "And ever since then, I've been trying to figure out how to protect my son without becoming the kind of monster who destroys everything he touches." Eva reached across the table and covered his hand with hers. "You're not a monster, Nico." He looked down at their joined hands. "You don't know what I've done." "I know what I see. A father who loves his son. A man who's trying to keep his family safe. A man who's put you and your brother in danger just by letting you into our lives. A man who's protecting us now that we are in danger." Nico turned his hand over so their palms were touching. "Why aren't you running away from this? From me?" It was a good question. Eva had been asking herself the same thing. "Because Luca needs us. Because Leo is safer here than anywhere else right now. And because—" She hesitated. "Because I think you need us too." The words hung between them, honest and vulnerable. Nico's thumb brushed across her knuckles, sending warmth up her arm. "You're not wrong," he said quietly. They sat like that for a long moment, hands linked across the table, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on them. Eva was acutely aware of how alone they were, how quiet the house had become. "I should go to bed," she said finally. "Eva." She looked up at him. "Thank you for staying, for not running when things got complicated. Thank you for being honest with me. Finally." This time he did smile. A real smile that transformed his whole face and made Eva's heart skip. "I'll try to be more honest going forward." "I'd appreciate that." Eva stood up, but Nico's hand tightened on hers. "There's something else you should know," he said. Eva sat back down. "What?" "Tomorrow I'm having a meeting here with some business associates. It might get tense. I'll need you and the boys to stay upstairs until it's over." "What kind of meeting?" "The kind where we try to resolve our differences with Victor before things escalate further." Eva's stomach dropped. "He's coming here? To your house?" "Neutral ground. It's safer for everyone." "Safer? Nico, what if something goes wrong? What if—" "Nothing will go wrong. I have too much security, too many witnesses. Victor knows better than to try anything here." "But you're not completely sure." Nico was quiet for a moment. "No, I'm not completely sure." "Then maybe we should leave. Take the boys somewhere safe until it's over." "There is nowhere safe, Eva. Not until this is finished." The words chilled her. "So we just sit upstairs and hope for the best?" "You sit upstairs under heavy guard while I handle business. It's the best option we have." Eva stared at him, seeing the determination in his eyes, the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. This was his world, a world of calculated risks and dangerous meetings and children who couldn't go to school because it wasn't safe. "Okay," she said finally. "Okay?" "Okay, we'll stay upstairs. But Nico, if something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong. But if it does, you get to us first. Before you worry about business or revenge or anything else, you get to us first." He squeezed her hand. "I promise." It would have to be enough. That night, Eva lay awake in the guest bed, listening to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Guards making their rounds, keeping watch over a house full of secrets and sleeping children. Tomorrow, Viktor Ivanov would walk through the front door. The man who had threatened her and Leo, who wanted to hurt Nico's family, who represented everything dangerous about the world she'd stumbled into. And she would sit upstairs with the boys, trusting a man she barely knew to keep them all safe. But as scared as she was, Eva realized something else. She wasn't sorry she'd stayed. Despite the danger, despite the complications, despite everything rational telling her to run, she wasn't sorry. Because downstairs, in his own bed, was a little boy who had smiled for the first time in months because she'd kept a promise to stay. And down the hall, in a master bedroom she'd never seen, was a man who'd let her see past his walls for just a moment, a man who was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders and trying to do right by everyone he cared about. Whatever happened tomorrow, Eva knew she was exactly where she belonged. Eva woke to the sound of hushed voices in the hallway. The digital clock on the nightstand read 6:30 in the morning, but the house was already buzzing with quiet activity. Through the guest room window she could see men in dark suits positioned around the gardens like chess pieces. Today was the day. She found Leo already awake in his bed, staring at the ceiling. "You okay, buddy?" "I had weird dreams," he said, "about men with guns and Luca crying." Eva's heart squeezed. It was just a dream. "We're safe here, remember?" "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." She hoped she sounded more confident than she felt. Downstairs, the kitchen was a flurry of controlled chaos. Rosalia was cooking what looked like enough food to feed an army, while Marco stood near the window, speaking quietly into a phone. When he saw Eva, he ended the call quickly. "Good morning," he said with a nod. "Mr. Vitale is in his office. He'd like to speak with you before breakfast." Eva found Nico behind his desk, wearing a black suit that made him look more intimidating than usual. Dark circles under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept much. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Nervous. You?" "The same." He stood up and came around the desk. "Eva, I need to go over the plan for today one more time." "I'm listening." At 10 o'clock, Victor arrives with 2 of his men. The meeting will be in the formal dining room. It's on the first floor, away from the staircase. You and the boys will stay in Luca's room with the door locked. Marco will be stationed right outside. What if we need something? Food, water, bathroom? Rosalia is preparing a basket of snacks and drinks. There's a bathroom connected to Luca's room. You shouldn't need to leave for any reason. Eva nodded, trying to memorize every detail. How long will the meeting last? Hopefully no more than an hour. These things tend to be straightforward. We state our positions, negotiate terms, shake hands. Everyone goes home. And if it's not straightforward, Nico's jaw tightened. Then you follow Marco's instructions exactly. He has orders to get you and the boys out of the house immediately if things go badly. Out of the house to where? There's a safe house across town, clean, comfortable, fully stocked. You'd stay there until the situation is resolved. Eva absorbed this. You've really thought of everything, haven't you? I have to. It's how I've kept my family alive this long. The weight of that statement settled between them. Eva reached out and straightened his tie, a small gesture that felt surprisingly intimate. Be careful today, she said. Always am. I mean it, Nico. Whatever Victor wants, whatever he's threatening, it's not worth getting killed over. His hands came up to cover hers where they rested on his chest. Some things are worth the risk. Like what? He looked at her for a long moment, something unreadable in his dark eyes. Like the people I care about. Before Eva could respond, a knock on the door interrupted them. Marco appeared in the doorway. Boss, we need to do a final security sweep. Nico nodded and dropped his hands from Eva's. I'll see you after the meeting. Promise? Promise. The next few hours crawled by. Eva helped Rosalia prepare the snack basket while Leo and Luca played quietly upstairs, both boys sensing the tension in the air. At 9:30, Marco appeared in the kitchen. Time to go upstairs, he said, and stay there until I come get you. Luca's room felt smaller with all of them crowded inside. Eva settled on the window seat with a book, though she couldn't concentrate enough to read. Leo and Luca built with Legos, but even they were quieter than usual. The waiting was the worst part. At exactly 10 o'clock, Eva heard cars in the driveway. She moved to the window and peered through the curtains. 3 black SUVs with tinted windows pulled up to the front door. Men in expensive suits climbed out, their movements sharp and businesslike. Is that them? Leo whispered, joining her at the window. I think so. The man who got out of the middle car was tall and broad, with silver hair and cold eyes that swept the property like he was cataloging weaknesses. Even from a distance, Eva could feel the menace radiating from him. Viktor Ivanov, the man who wanted to hurt her family. He looks mean, Luca said quietly. He is mean, Eva said, but your papa is smarter than he is, and we're safe up here. She hoped that was true. For the first 20 minutes, everything was quiet. Eva could hear the murmur of voices from downstairs, but nothing alarming. Marco stood guard outside their door, occasionally speaking quietly into his radio. Then the shouting started. It was muffled by the thick walls and heavy doors, but Eva could hear raised voices, chairs scraping across the floor, the sound of something heavy falling over. What's happening? Leo whispered. I don't know. Luca had gone completely still, his hands frozen over his Lego castle. His face was pale, his breathing shallow. Hey, Eva said, sitting down next to him. It's okay. Sometimes grown-ups argue loudly, but it doesn't mean anything bad is going to happen. But even as she said it, Eva's stomach was twisting with dread. This didn't sound like a normal business disagreement. More shouting, the slam of a door, then, terrifyingly, silence. Eva strained to hear something, anything, that would tell her what was happening downstairs. But the house had gone completely quiet. A soft knock on the door made all 3 of them jump. It's Marco, came the voice from the other side. "Open up." Eva unlocked the door. Marco's face was grim, and she could see other guards moving quickly through the hallway behind him. "Change of plans," he said. "We're leaving. Now." "What happened? Where's Nico?" "Mr. Vitale is handling the situation. My job is to get you to safety." Marco was already moving, gesturing for them to follow. "Stay close. Stay quiet. Do exactly what I say." Eva grabbed the snack basket with shaking hands while Leo helped Luca to his feet. They followed Marco down the back staircase, moving as quickly and quietly as possible. The kitchen was empty, but Eva could hear voices from the front of the house, angry voices speaking in what sounded like Russian. "My car is out back," Marco whispered. "When I say go, we run. Don't stop. Don't look back. Understand?" They all nodded. Marco peered around the corner, then motioned them forward. They slipped out the back door and across the garden to where a black sedan waited with the engine running. "Go, go, go!" Marco urged, pushing them toward the car. They were halfway across the lawn when the first gunshot rang out. Eva's blood turned to ice. "Nico," she breathed. "In the car now," Marco ordered, physically lifting Luca and shoving him into the back seat. More gunshots from inside the house, shouting, the sound of breaking glass. "But what about Papa?" Luca cried, trying to climb back out of the car. "Your Papa can take care of himself," Marco said firmly, settling all three of them in the back seat before jumping into the driver's seat. "Right now, my job is taking care of you." As they sped away from the estate, Eva twisted around to look out the back window. She could see figures moving behind the lit windows, shadows that could be anyone. Was Nico one of them? Was he hurt? Was he even alive? The questions tormented her as Marco drove through winding back roads at high speed, constantly checking his mirrors. "Where are we going?" Leo asked. "Safe house," Marco said. 20 minutes away. You'll stay there until Mr. Vitale gives the all clear." "When will that be?" Eva asked. "When it's safe." It wasn't much of an answer. Eva pulled Luca close, feeling his small body trembling against hers. Leo pressed against her other side, his face pale and scared. The safe house turned out to be a modest 2-story home in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but clean and comfortable. Marco swept through it quickly, checking windows and doors before settling them in the living room. "There's food in the kitchen, clean clothes upstairs, everything you need," he said. "I'll be right outside. Don't answer the door for anyone but me or Mr. Vitale." "Marco," Eva caught his arm as he headed for the door. "Please, is he okay?" Marco's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Vitale has been in worse situations and come out fine. Try not to worry." But worry was all Eva could do. She made sandwiches none of them ate, turned on a movie none of them watched, and tried to comfort 2 scared boys while fighting her own terror. What if Nico was hurt? What if Victor had won whatever battle they'd been fighting? What if she never saw him again? The realization hit her like a physical blow. Somewhere in the past few days, she'd fallen for him. Not just attraction, not just sympathy for a widowed father. Real, deep, complicated love for a man whose world was violent and dangerous and completely different from anything she'd ever known. And now he might be gone. Hours crawled by. Marco came inside periodically to check on them, but he had no news. His phone rang constantly, but he spoke in rapid Italian, and Eva couldn't understand a word. As evening fell, Luca finally exhausted himself, crying for his father, and fell asleep curled up against Eva's side. Leo dozed in the armchair, leaving Eva alone with her fears and the terrible waiting. At 8 o'clock, headlights swept across the living room window. Eva's heart lurched as she heard car doors slamming, footsteps on the front porch. Marco appeared in the doorway, and for the first time all day, he was smiling. "Someone wants to see you," he said. Nico stepped into the room behind him, and Eva's relief was so intense it made her dizzy. He was rumpled and tired, with a cut on his cheekbone and what looked like bruises forming under his shirt, but he was alive and whole in here. "Papa!" Luca jerked awake and launched himself across the room into his father's arms. Nico caught him easily, holding him tight while the boy sobbed against his shoulder. "I'm here, little man. I'm okay. We're all okay." Leo woke up and grinned with relief. "You look like you've been in a fight." "Something like that." Nico's eyes found Eva's over Luca's head. "How is everyone? Marco said you were brave." "We were scared," Eva said honestly, "but Marco took good care of us." "Good. That's what he's paid for." But Eva could see the tension still coiled in Nico's shoulders, the way his eyes kept moving to the windows. Whatever had happened at the house, it wasn't completely over. "What happened with Victor?" she asked. "Victor overplayed his hand, thought he could force me into a deal by threatening my family directly." Nico's voice was hard. "He was wrong." "Is he?" "He's no longer a problem." The finality in those words made Eva shiver. She didn't ask for details. "So we can go home now?" Leo asked. "Back to our apartment?" Nico exchanged a look with Marco. "Actually, I was hoping we could discuss that." "Discuss what?" "Whether you might consider making the estate your permanent home." Eva stared at him. "What?" "Your apartment building is no longer safe. Too many people know you live there, know you're connected to my family. But more than that..." Nico shifted Luca in his arms, looking suddenly uncertain. "These past few days, having you and Leo here, it's been good, for all of us." "Nico, we can't just move in with you. We barely know each other." "Don't we? You've seen me at my worst, Eva. You've seen the danger, the complications, the ugly parts of my world, and you're still here." "Because I care about Luca and about you, but that doesn't mean..." "It means everything." Nico set Luca down and stepped closer to her. "It means you're exactly the kind of person I want in my life, in our lives." Eva's heart was pounding. "This is crazy. You're talking about us moving in together, becoming some kind of family, when a week ago I didn't even know you existed." "Sometimes the most important decisions happen quickly. And sometimes quick decisions are bad decisions." "Are they?" "Leo, what do you think about staying here permanently?" Leo looked around the safe house, then back at Nico. "You mean like forever? In the big house with all the cool stuff?" "Forever," Nico confirmed, "with your own room, your own space." "Luca would have a brother. You'd have a little brother. Eva would have help taking care of you." "And Eva would have you taking care of her," Leo said with 10-year-old directness. Nico's eyes softened. "If she'd let me." Eva felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at a drop that could either destroy her or give her everything she'd ever wanted. "What about school for the boys? What about my job? What about the fact that your world is dangerous and complicated, and I have no idea how to navigate it?" "Luca's tutor can work with both boys. You wouldn't need a job. I can provide for all of us. And as for the danger..." Nico's expression grew serious. "There will always be some level of risk, but today proved that I can protect my family, that my people are loyal, that my security works." "By fighting a war in your dining room?" "By ending a threat before it could grow larger." Eva looked around the room, at Luca, who was watching her with hopeful eyes, at Leo, who was clearly enchanted by the idea of living in a mansion, at Marco, who was trying to pretend he wasn't listening to every word. "I need time to think," she said. "Of course." But she could see disappointment flash across Nico's face. "Take all the time you need. Can we at least go back to the house tonight? I'm tired and the boys need their own beds." "Absolutely. The house is secure again." The drive back to the estate was quiet. Luca dozed against his father's shoulder while Leo stared out the window at the passing lights. Eva found herself studying Nico's profile in the dim light from the dashboard. He'd asked her to stay. Not just for tonight, not just until the danger passed, but forever. To become part of his family, to share his complicated, dangerous life. The smart thing would be to say no. To take Leo and disappear somewhere safe, somewhere normal. Start over in a new city where no one knew about the few days when they'd gotten tangled up with the Mafia. But as they pulled into the circular driveway and Eva saw the warm lights glowing in the windows, she realized she didn't want to be smart. She wanted to be home. Later that night, after the boys were asleep and the house had settled into its nighttime quiet, Eva found herself on the terrace outside the kitchen. The air was cool and sweet with the scent of jasmine from the gardens. She'd been standing there for maybe 10 minutes when she heard footsteps behind her. "Can't sleep?" Nico asked, joining her at the stone railing. "Too much to think about." "Want to talk about it?" Eva turned to face him. "Tell me honestly, if Leo and I stay, if we become part of your life, will we always have to live like this? With guards and safe houses and the constant threat of violence?" Nico was quiet for a moment. "I can't promise you a completely normal life. My business, my family history, there will always be some level of risk. But what happened with Victor was unusual. Most of the time, it's much quieter than that. Most of the time." "Most of the time," he confirmed. "And Eva, if you stay, you'll never have to worry about money again. About working 2 jobs just to pay rent. About Leo not having everything he needs. I've never needed a lot of money to be happy. But you've needed security, stability, a place where Leo can grow up safe and loved." Nico stepped closer. "I can give you that. And what would you get out of it?" The question seemed to surprise him. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you're offering us a home, financial security, protection. You're offering to take care of Leo like he's your own son. What do you get in return?" Nico was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching her face. "I get a chance to remember what it feels like to have a real family again. I get to see my son smile and laugh like he did today. I get—" He paused, seeming to struggle with the words. "I get you. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you keep your promises even when it's hard. I know you put other people's needs before your own. I know you're brave and stubborn, and you make my son feel safe." His voice softened. "And I know that when I thought I might not see you again today, it was the worst feeling I've had since Maria died." Eva's breath caught. "Nico." "I'm not asking you to love me, Eva. I know it's too soon for that. No, I haven't earned it yet. I'm just asking you to stay long enough to see if we could build something together. Something real." Eva stared at him, seeing the vulnerability he was trying so hard to hide. This powerful, dangerous man was asking her to take a chance on him, to trust him with her heart and her future and the most precious thing in her world, Leo's happiness. "If I say yes," she said slowly, "if we stay, there have to be rules." "Name them. The boys come first, always. If there's ever a situation where you have to choose between your business and their safety, you choose them." "Agreed. And I want to be involved in decisions that affect them. School, activities, rules. We're partners in this, not just you giving orders." "Of course. And if either Leo or I ever want to leave, you let us go. No questions, no threats, no trying to stop us." Nico flinched slightly at that one, but he nodded. "If that's what you want." Eva took a deep breath. "Okay. Okay. Okay, we'll stay. We'll try this crazy, complicated thing and see what happens." The smile that spread across Nico's face was like sunrise after a long, dark night. "Really?" "Really. But Nico, I need you to understand something. I'm not Maria. I can't replace her, and I'm not going to try to be someone I'm not. I don't want you to be Maria, he said, stepping closer until they were almost touching. I want you to be Eva. Exactly. As you are. Even though I argue with you and ask too many questions and don't know anything about your world. Especially because of those things. They stood there for a moment, the weight of the decision settling between them. Eva was acutely aware of how close he was, how easy it would be to close the distance between them. There's one more thing, she said. What? If we're going to do this, if we're going to be a family, then we do it right. No more keeping secrets from each other. No more pretending everything is fine when it's not. I can do that. And no more treating me like I'm fragile. I've been taking care of myself and Leo for 3 years. I'm stronger than I look. Trust me, I've noticed. The way he said it made heat bloom in Eva's chest. Without really thinking about it, she reached up and touched the cut on his cheekbone. Does it hurt? It's nothing. That's not what I asked. His mouth quirked up at the corner. A little. Good thing I know some basic first aid. Is that an offer? It's whatever you want it to be. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then Nico's hand came up to cover hers, where it rested against his face. Eva, he said quietly. Yeah? Thank you for taking a chance on us. Thank you for being worth the chance. He leaned down, and Eva thought he might kiss her. Instead, he pressed his forehead against hers, breathing her in. We're going to figure this out, he whispered. Yeah, she whispered back. We are. The next morning, Eva woke up to the sound of laughter. Real, genuine, joy-filled laughter coming from somewhere downstairs. She followed the sound to the kitchen, where she found an extraordinary sight. Nico, still in his pajamas and robe, flipping pancakes, while Leo and Luca sat at the counter, making up increasingly ridiculous knock-knock jokes. Knock, knock, Luca was saying. Who's there? Leo replied. Banana. Banana who? Banana split all over the floor, and now Papa has to clean it up. Both boys dissolved into giggles. Nico shook his head, but he was smiling too, a real relaxed smile that made him look years younger. Good morning, Eva said from the doorway. Eva! Luca jumped down from his stool and ran to hug her. Papa's making pancakes, and they're almost as good as Rosalia's. Almost as good? Nico protested in mock offense. I'll have you know these are gourmet pancakes. What makes them gourmet? Leo asked. The cook, Eva said, accepting a cup of coffee from Nico with a grateful smile. Exactly. Nico served up a plate of perfectly golden pancakes. So, what does everyone want to do today? It's Saturday, we're all safe, and we have the whole day ahead of us. Can we go to the park? Luca asked hopefully. I want to show Leo the good swings. I don't see why not, Nico said, as long as Marco doesn't mind a field trip. Can we really? Eva asked. Is it safe? Victor's people have scattered. It'll be weeks before anyone tries to reorganize, and by then, word will have spread about what happens to people who threaten my family. Nico's voice grew serious for a moment. We can't live in hiding forever, Eva. At some point, we have to trust that our security is good enough. Eva looked around the kitchen, at the boys chattering excitedly about swings and slides, at Nico calmly making breakfast, like this was any normal Saturday morning, at the warm sunlight streaming through the windows. This was her life now. Complicated, unconventional, sometimes dangerous, but real. And despite everything rational telling her she was crazy, she'd never been happier. The park sounds perfect, she said. 3 hours later, Eva found herself sitting on a park bench watching Leo push Luca on the swings while Marco and 2 other guards maintained a discreet perimeter. It was surreal. Bodyguards at a children's playground. but the boys were having so much fun that Eva couldn't bring herself to worry about it. "They're good together," Nico said, settling beside her on the bench. "Yeah, they are. Leo's always wanted a little brother. And now he has one." Eva smiled, watching as Leo showed Luca how to pump his legs to go higher. "Think they'll be okay? With all the changes, I mean? Kids are resilient, more resilient than adults usually." "Speaking from experience?" Nico nodded. "I was Luca's age when my grandfather died. He lived with us, helped raise me. One day he was there, the next day he wasn't. I thought the world was ending. But it wasn't. No, it was just different. And eventually, different became normal." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the boys play and feeling the warm sunshine on their faces. Eva couldn't remember the last time she'd felt so peaceful. "Nico," she said finally. "Hmm?" "What you said last night, about not asking me to love you yet." He turned to look at her, suddenly alert. "What about it?" "You might not have to ask." Something shifted in his expression, surprise, hope, and something deeper that made Eva's heart race. "Eva, I'm not saying I'm there yet," she said quickly, "but I'm saying maybe I'm closer than either of us expected." Nico reached over and took her hand, threading their fingers together. "For the record, I'm closer than I expected, too." "Yeah?" "Yeah." He brought their joined hands to his lips and pressed a soft kiss to her knuckles. "Much closer." A shriek of laughter from the playground broke the moment. They looked up to see Leo chasing Luca around the slide, both boys grinning widely. "Come on, Papa," Luca called. "Come play with us." "What about Eva?" Nico called back. "She can come too." Eva found herself being pulled off the bench and into a game of tag that involved the slide, the monkey bars, and a lot of running around. It was silly and exhausting and perfect. As the afternoon wore on, Eva realized this was what she'd been missing without even knowing it. Not just financial security or a safe place to live, but this: family, belonging. The kind of love that wrapped around you and made you feel like you could handle anything. That evening, after the boys were in bed and the house had settled into its nighttime quiet, Eva found herself back on the terrace with Nico. But this time, instead of standing apart, they sat together on the outdoor sofa, Eva curled up against his side. "Good day," he said, his arm tightening around her. "Very good day." "Any regrets about your decision?" Eva tilted her head up to look at him. "Ask me in a year." "I will." He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "Every day for the rest of our lives, if you'll let me." "That's a long time." "I hope so." Eva smiled and settled back against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new complications. But tonight, sitting here with Nico's arms around her and both boys safe upstairs, she felt like the luckiest woman in the world. She'd set out to babysit a sick little boy for one night. Instead, she'd found a home, a family, and the beginning of a love story she never could have imagined. Sometimes the best things in life really did come when you least expected them. "Nico," she said softly. "Hmm?" "I love you too." He went very still beneath her. "Eva, I know it's soon. I know it's crazy, but it's true." She tilted her head up to meet his eyes. "I love you." The kiss he gave her was soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, both of them were smiling. "So," Eva said, "what do we do now?" "Now?" Nico's smile widened. "Now we live happily ever after." And looking up at the stars above the estate, with the man she loved holding her close and their children sleeping safely inside, Eva believed they actually might.